So, Seth, we find ourselves here in week 4.
And week 4 is chapter 5.
Of course it is. Of course it is. We have been talking about encounters with the Holy Spirit. You were talking about what happened up in Hamilton, north of Boston up there, and how you acted out on this dream. Very impressed, by the way.
Yeah, and how my parents were following God like Joseph and Mary.
So speaking of following God, now where does that lead to? Where did that whole encounter go?
Well, when I think about something else, I think about Toronto and the way the Holy Spirit was poured out in Toronto and how that affected the world. And just like it affected the world, our little church was a part of that. We were meeting up at the Kingston Elementary School, and my parents grabbed a bunch of Kingston folk, loaded them into vans, and they said, we're going to go check this Holy Spirit thing out. And they drove all the way to Toronto on a low budget, slept overnight at, motels and things like that. They got there, and wasn't long before they started getting hit with the Holy Spirit in the Toronto meetings. And, but then their time ended, and on the way back is really where there was an amazing difference, because that, I guess normal crowd of people, 95% of them continued to laugh all the way from Toronto all the way back to Kingston. They could not stop laughing. There was one or two people driving the vans, and they were like, what is wrong with you people? And, of course, they were just filled up with the joy of the Lord and the presence of the Holy Spirit.
The whole way.
The whole way. So my dad had this idea, let's just bless our church with this. So the whole service, he just lined people up who were already filled with the joy of the Lord. He said, I believe the Holy Spirit's catchy.
Yeah.
And if you want this, come up and, receive a blessing from the Spirit of God. And the Spirit of God fell on our church. And it was like a comedy show right in the front of the church. That was the whole service. So
the whole service.
The whole service. And from then, from weeks after that, we would have prayer lines and people coming up and getting blasted with the Spirit and receiving their prayer language. But Toronto was the epicenter of that for some time.
So now we're going to chapter 5 in our book here, Remembering the Poor. So where are we going here, Seth?
Well, I know that you have some amazing experiences with people who are less fortunate. And, you being in closer contact, probably right in front of your face, getting off the train and working in Boston. And certainly I'm thinking of one person. Maybe you could tell us just a little bit about that.
Jeanette. Jeanette turned out to be a very, very special person. Homeless woman, 80 years old plus, who would sit there at these little tables in the middle of South Station with a bunch of other kind of homeless people in the area. But she just caught my attention. It's like the Holy Spirit said, that's the one, that's the one. So finally, after passing this woman by 100 times or whatever, I stopped and said, hey, can I buy you a cup of coffee or whatever? And from that point, for the next 3 years, we shared breakfast together at South Station 3, maybe 4 times a week. And we became best friends. It was like suddenly I really loved this homeless woman who lives downtown and sleeps on cardboard boxes on these vents above the MBTA. It was, and then she vanished. All of a sudden she was gone. And so I talked to the police. I talked to the security people at South Station. I talked to other homeless people. No one had a clue. No one had a clue. And I still don't know what happened to Jeanette. All I know is it left this hole in my heart. This homeless woman left a hole in my heart. We were tight. And we prayed together. She sang for me.
Yeah.
I recorded it on my phone. Someday I'll play it for everybody. She sang for me.
Yeah.
And it was gold.
Yeah.
The time with her was gold.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of emotion in what you're saying and in your face. I think on your side, it made an incredible impact. I'm thinking on her side, somebody finally took her seriously.
Yeah.
And I think with the poor and remembering the poor, is the poor on their side of it, they just often feel like people really don't take them seriously.
She said the most valuable thing that I gave her was my time.
Yeah. Well, there you have it.